Jai Shri Prabhupada.
It is session 14.
Okay, thank you. We'll get started. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamhayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tvise Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Suratau Pangor Mama Manda Matergati Matsarvasva Padam Bhojau Radha Madan Mohanau Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumada Śrīmad Ratnagara Simha Sanasthau Śrīmad Radha Śrīla Govinda Devau Prishthālibhi Sevyamanau Smarami Śrīman Rasarasārambhi Vamshi Vatatasthita Karshana Swanaira Gopir Gopinathaya Shriye Stuna Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Shamchandra Prabhu Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji
Hare
has
Krishna,
just
Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna just reached Mumbai today.
Yes, about 3 hours back.
Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you Prabhuji for joining. So we'll get started. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So dear devotees, today is a very auspicious tithi. It is Akshaya Tritiya, and it is the occasion of many important Vaishnava events. Many of us know these events. Today was the day that Maharaj Yudhishthir received from Surya Dev the Akshay Patra, which Srimati Draupadi Devi used to serve her 5 husbands and the innumerable sadhus and rishis who lived in the forest. Every day she would cook for them. And they did this in Sridham Vrindavan. I'm trying to remember the forest that they were living in Sridham Vrindavan. Anyone remembers what was the forest?
Kamyavan.
Kamyavan. Thank you, Sandeep. They were living in Kamyavan. And Draupadi Devi used this Akshay Patra to serve so many sadhus who were living there in Kamyavan. Every day she would cook for them. Maharaj Yudhishthira took great pleasure in feeding all the sadhus, and then they would eat. And at the end, Srimati Draupadi Devi would eat. One meal every day. Today is also the day that the construction of the Rath for Lord Jagannath Baldev Subhadra begins in Sri Jagannath Puri Dham on Akshay Tritiya. Today is also the appearance day of Sri Parshuramji. So many important events have taken place, and Akshay Tritiya is one of those tithis in the year which is considered to be very auspicious to begin any endeavor. It is a good day to give charity. So now it is already evening, but at least online we can donate. It's a very auspicious day to give charity. And today is also a very auspicious day to make a spiritual sankalpa, make a spiritual vow that I will do this, and then stick to it for the rest of our life. So if we are chanting 16 rounds, today we can take a vrat that every day I will chant 18 rounds at least, and we should stick to it. Or any such vow that we don't tell anyone, but we can follow it nicely without anyone coming to know. We don't have to make it public or share it with anybody. Krishna empowers us to follow that vow for the rest of our life. It could be any vow. We can take a vow that every day 2 minutes I will sit in front of my deities and I will talk to them. I will give them a report of my sadhana every day. I will present before them my doubts, my difficulties, my challenges. I will speak to my deities every day, just alone. 2 minutes I will sit and I will talk to them. 2 or 3 minutes. That sankalpa we can take. There are many sankalpas that we can, different sankalpas. We can take a sankalpa that every day I will offer 3 dandavat pranams, 3 obeisances to my deities every day. Something like that. Today is a very auspicious day to take a spiritual vow, sankalpa, and follow it for the rest of our life, for our spiritual advancement. So on this auspicious tithi of Akshay Tritiya, let us study Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Dear devotees, we are studying the first canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, 5th chapter, entitled Shri Narad Muni's instructions on Śrīmad Bhāgavatam to Srila Vyasadeva. And we discussed the first 7 chapters last time of this chapter. Verses 1 to 4 describe Narad Muni's enquiries about Srila Vyasadeva's despondency. So the previous chapter, chapter 4, is called the Arrival of Sripad Narad Muni. So Sripad Narad Muni comes to the bank of Saraswati, Mother Saraswati, in Badrika Ashram, where Srila Vyasadeva stays in his hermitage. He comes, Srila Vyasadeva receives him with great awe and respect, as one should receive one's spiritual master. I remember there is a very instructive incident that took place. There is one very great spiritual master in our movement, and he was visiting a particular city, and there is a Grahastha devotee who arranged a home program. So this Sannyasi Maharaj came to his house for a home program along with few associates, his personal servants and few other devotees, the driver, etc. And this Grahastha devotee was busy making arrangements inside the house for the program. And he came to know that Maharaj has arrived. Yet he did not go outside to receive Maharaj. He thought, let Maharaj come at the doorstep, then I will garland Maharaj and usher Maharaj in. But that is not the etiquette. So anyway, so he remained inside the house, and then Maharaj got out of the car and then came. And there was another sannyasi with Maharaj, and who is a disciple of this Maharaj, a sannyas disciple of this Maharaj. And he chastised this Grahastha devotee thoroughly. Not in front of Maharaj, but he took him to the side and chastised him. He said, do you think you have purchased my spiritual master by inviting him for a home program? If your spiritual master comes to your house, is this how you will treat him? Remain inside the house while Guru Maharaj has come in your driveway? You will not be standing outside in the driveway to open the door of the car and offer obeisances, garland him, welcome him, sprinkle flower petals on the way, and offer sweet words and bring Maharaj inside your house respectfully. Will you not do that if your own spiritual master comes? He said, yes, Maharaj, I will do that. Why you didn't do that today? Don't repeat this mistake. Don't think you have become very great because you're hosting a program. Don't think you have become very prestigious because Maharaj is visiting your house. And this devotee was telling me that it was such a learning lesson for me. He was thoroughly ashamed of his behavior. And it was very good. And he was glorifying this Maharaj, Chote Maharaj, who was chastising him. Because if we are not chastised, how will we learn? This is a very important principle. We should treat other Guru Maharajas in our movement with as much respect as we treat our own spiritual master. This is a very important principle. Srila Vyasadeva received Sripad Narad Muni with great respect. And then Sripad Narad Muni, being omniscient, he immediately understood that Srila Vyasadeva is despondent. And that's why Guru Maharaj came. That's why Sripad Narad Muni came. Because he knew that his disciple is very remorseful and sorrowful. He's not happy. So then Sripad Narad Muni inquires about the cause of the despondency of Srila Vyasadeva. Srila Vyasadeva says that you are correct, Guru Maharaj. I am despondent in verse number 5. Then he glorifies his Guru Maharaj in verse number 6 by saying that you know everything. And in verse number 7 also he glorifies, comparing Sripad Narad Muni to the sun, travel everywhere, to the air. You are all pervasive. So you know everything. Please point out my deficiency. Please give me the diagnosis of why I am despondent. Srila Vyasadeva requests his Guru Maharaj, Srila Narad Muni. And now from verse number 8, Sripad Narad Muni is going to begin speaking. Shri Narada Uvacha Bhavatanudita Prayam Yasho Bhagavato Amalam Yenaivasau Natushyeta Manyeta Darshanam Khilam. In the interest of time, we will not read the synonyms, but our beloved founder Acharya, Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajaka Acharya, Ashtottarashita Shri Śrīmad, Abhay Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada ji, has very kindly translated and commented to Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So Srila Prabhupada's translation, Shri Narada Muni said, you have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless. So very important lesson here. Srila Vyasadeva asked Sripad Narad Muni, what is the reason for my frustration? What is the reason for my despondency? Why am I so disappointed? Why am I not feeling happiness? And Sripad Narad Muni, being a Sadguru, being a bona fide spiritual master, just gave it straight. Gave it straight. No word jugglery, no beating around the bush. Gave it as it is. Look at the verse. Shri Narad Muni said, you have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Yasha Amalam, the spotless glory, Amalam Yasha, Bhagavataha, of the personality of Godhead. You have not described. That's why Na Tushyeta. Na Tushyeta. Your writings have not completely satisfied Krishna. And if Krishna is not satisfied, no one is satisfied. If Krishna is satisfied, the whole world is satisfied. Yasmin tushtam jagat tushtam. If Krishna is satisfied, everyone is satisfied. That was the whole reason why Sudama, the Brahman, became so rich. In Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 10th Canto, chapter 80 and 81 describe the story of Sudama Brahman. So in his Patrika, in his horoscope, it was Shri Kshay Yog. Shri Kshay Yog. Which means that there will be complete loss, Kshay, complete loss of Shri, wealth, money. That was the Yog in his Patrika, in his horoscope. So Sudama was very poor. But it is described by our acharyas, and in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam it is described that when he went to Dwarka, just by accepting one handful, one morsel of stale, old, hard, dry, chipped rice, Lord Krishna accepted it from Sudama. Sudama did not even offer, not like Sudama took a bell in his left hand, ting, 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 and he was offering. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahman Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namo. Krishna, please eat. Please accept this poha. No. He brought it. His wife gave it with love, begged for it with love for Krishna. He brought it. He wanted to give her, seeing Krishna's opulence. He felt embarrassed. How can I offer this chipped rice? Here Krishna is eating on golden plate, first class bhoga, Naivedya, cooked by Lakshmi Devi herself, Srimati Rukmini Devi, Srimati Satyabhama Devi and others. What have I got to offer? This chipped rice is not fit to be offered to Krishna. It is so hard and dry. It will damage Krishna's tongue and gums. No, I cannot offer it. It will make Krishna's gums bleed. It is so hard. I cannot offer it to Krishna. No. So he hid it in his armpit. Armpit is not the cleanest part of the body, my dear friends. But Krishna was so eager to accept it, he grabbed it and ate one morsel. And Yasmin tushte jagat tushta. Because Krishna was satisfied by the offering of Sudama, everyone is satisfied. Everything becomes auspicious. If Krishna accepts one offering from us, our life is successful, my dear friends. Sudama went home. He was so satisfied that Krishna received him with so much love, embraced him, spoke such sweet words, and remembered him. Sudama was not even sure that Krishna will remember him after so many years. But Krishna remembered him. Everything Krishna remembered. How they were together in the Gurukul. Sudama did not even have the heart to ask Krishna for anything. Although his wife had sent him, that ask if possible. I don't like to see you so poor, not having food to eat. Ask your friend, Krishna. He is Sri Niketan. He is the husband of, he is Shripati. He is the husband of Goddess of Fortune. Please ask him. But Krishna treated him so well that he thought, now if I ask something to Krishna, it will become like a business transaction. No. I cannot ask. I don't want to spoil. I'm not a vanik. I'm not a businessman. I cannot spoil this relationship. He didn't have the heart to ask. And he returned home without asking Krishna for anything. But when he came, he had palaces, he had maidservants, he had gold, jewels, everything, all opulences, more than King Indra. Sudama and his wife got. But in his Patrika, in his horoscope, it was Shri Kshay Yoga, that he will be poverty stricken. But Shri, Goddess of Fortune, blessed him. And he got so much opulence. And Krishna explained, after he left, Krishna explained to Rukmini Devi. Rukmini Devi said, I did not let you eat more because I don't have anything more to give him. But how can I give him opulences, my dear Krishna? Because he has got Shri Kshay Yoga in his Patrika. How can I give him? Krishna said, because he has satisfied me, he has given charity to all the sadhus all the rishis, all the 33 crore demigods, devatas, to Lord Vishnu, all the three Purusha avatars, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Karanodakshaya Vishnu, he has fed everyone because all these personalities reside within me. I am Ananta Koti Brahmanda Nayak. I am the Lord of all the Brahmandas, with all the Kshirodakshaya Vishnus in them, all the Garbhodakshaya Vishnus in them. Even Mahavishnu comes from me, as explained in Brahma Samhita. So by feeding me, Rukmini Devi, this Sudama Brahman has fed everyone. Now tell me, what is the result of the pious activity where we feed all the sadhus, all the rishis, everyone, all the devatas, all the devis? Rukmini Devi said, nobody has done that. That is such a great pious activity to feed everyone. Yes. Therefore, Krishna says, I have reversed his horoscope. From Shri Kshay, he has become Yaksha Shri. Shri Kshaya, Yaksha Shri. Yaksha means Kuber. Yaksha means Kuber. So let Sudama have the wealth of Kuber. Yaksha Shri. So Shri Kshay Yog becomes Yaksha Shri Yog. That is the power of satisfying Krishna. And Śrīpad Narad Muni is explaining that na tushyeti. Your writings have not satisfied Krishna. Not satisfied. Why? Because you have not actually broadcast the spotless glories of Krishna through your writings. You have not. Therefore, you are not satisfied. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes something very brilliant. Please pay attention. Srila Prabhupada writes that if the author of the Vedanta, if the author of the Vedanta Sutra, author of all the Upanishads, Vedas, is not satisfied after writing, if the author of Mahabharata is not satisfied after writing it, how can the readers be satisfied? Hare Krishna. How can the readers become happy? Therefore, Srila Prabhupada says there is a need to write an explanation to the Vedanta Darshan or the Vedanta Sutra or the Brahma Sutra. And that natural commentary to Vedanta Sutra is Grantharaj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam by the same author, Srila Prabhupada writes. So I hope this is clear. Verse number 9. Śrīpad Narad Muni continues his pravachan to Shri Vyasadeva. Yatha dharmadayaschartha muni varyānukirtitah na tatha vasudevasya mahimahi anuvarnitah. Na tatha vasudevasya mahimahi anuvarnitah. That is the problem. Śrīpad Narad Muni is so clear, so direct in his assessment. He says, Śrīpad Narad Muni says, although, O great sage, you have very broadly described the 4 principles, beginning with religious performances. See, look at the first line. Yatha dharma adayas chartha. These are the arthas, purusharthas, the 4 purusharthas. What are they? Dharma adi. Means dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Beginning with dharma. Yatha dharmadayas chartha muni varyanu kirtita. Yes, anukirtita. You have repeatedly described about dharma adi, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Yes. O Muni Varya, O great sage, yes, you have described. I agree. But the problem is, just like you have described dharma, artha, kama, moksha, na tatha vasudevasya mahimahi anuvarnitah. But similarly, you have not adequately glorified Lord Vasudev. Vasudeva Paraveda. Vasudeva Paramakha. Vasudeva Parayoga. Vasudeva Paraveda. Lord Vasudeva is the purpose of all the Vedas, to know Vasudev. Vedayascha sarvam, Vedayascha sarvam ahameva vedya. In Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says in the 15th chapter, by all the Vedas I am to be known. But you wrote so much Vedic literature, Srila Vyasadeva, but you have not adequately glorified Lord Vasudeva. Na tatha Vasudevasya mahima. Vasudeva mahima, Krishna mahima, na anuvarnita. You have not adequately described it. That's why you are despondent. That's why you are dissatisfied. Clearly, he gave the diagnosis. Srila Prabhupada writes this in the purport that he gave prompt diagnosis. The root cause of despondency was that he had avoided glorifying the Lord in the various editions of Puranas and Vedas and other literatures that he wrote. And there was overemphasis on what? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. There was overemphasis on the 4 Purusharthas. But what about the 5th Purushartha, the Purushartha Shiromani? And that is Krishna Prem. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Prema Pumarto Maha. The Pancham Purushartha is Prem. That you have not glorified. Therefore, you are not satisfied. You have described Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. What is the ultimate that is described? Moksha, liberation. But moksha is not the ultimate. After one is liberated, one begins bhakti. Please note this point down. Where does bhakti begin? Bhakti begins where liberation, the highest limit of liberation is reached. That is where bhakti begins, pure bhakti. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport gives evidence from Bhagavad Gita. Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samatitayatan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. And Srila Prabhupada quotes, Brahma bhuta prasannatma na sochati na kangshati samaha sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. Mad bhakti labhate param. You get pure devotional service, Krishna bhakti, when Brahma bhuta prasannatma na sochati na kangshati. Beyond the stage of Brahma bhuta. After the stage of Brahma bhuta, which is liberation, after Brahman realization, one gets Krishna bhakti. So you described up to liberation, but you did not describe about Krishna bhakti, pure bhakti, uttama bhakti, which comes after Brahma bhuta stage. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na sochati na kangshati. Samaha sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. You didn't talk about mad bhakti adequately. You were stuck with dharma, artha, kama, moksha. That is a diagnosis. Now, Srila Narad Muni further describes in verse number 10 and 11 that there are 2 types of literatures. Verse number 10. Nayad vachaschit trapadam harer yasho jagat pavitram pragrinita karhiche tadvayasam tirtham ushanti manasa nayatra hamsa niraman ushikshayah. Srila Prabhupada translates that Srila Narad Muni is telling those words which do not describe the glories of Lord Krishna, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe. Jagan Mangalam, who can alone, Jagat Pavitram, who can sanctify the whole world. Krishna is Jagat Pavitram, he is Jagannath. Are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. What is the place of pilgrimage for crows? Garbage bins. And those words, Sripad Narad Muni is saying, he is a Mahajan. We have to hear attentively. This is Mahajan Vakya. Sripad Narad Muni is saying, those words which do not describe the glories of Krishna are like a place of pilgrimage for crows. Poetic language. In simple language, words that do not describe Vasudeva Mahima are those works, those literatures, those books are garbage. Which means all news channels, all newspapers, all sports channels, all Bollywood, all Hollywood, all Netflix, except Hare Krishna movie, if it is there on Netflix. All of Zulu and Hulu and all those channels, they are all garbage. They are rotten pieces of decomposing garbage meant for crows. This is Mahajan Vakya. This is Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, my dear friends. Welcome to Granthraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Hare Krishna. uncompromising. It kicks out all the anarthas. It kicks out anything that is unfavorable for obtaining direct loving service to Sri Krishna Chandra in Vraj. Everything else is kicked out in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Pure devotional service. Therefore, it is called Amala Puran. Amala. There is no Mala in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Śrīmad Narad Muni further says, since the all perfect persons, the Paramhamsas, are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. So any literature, it may be a New York Times best-selling author, it may be the #1 novel, all these authors. I used to read a lot of novels before I came to Krishna consciousness. And it is all waste of time. If I die today, is it going to matter how many books I have read, novels I have read? How many Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and Jeffrey Archer and Robin Cook? I don't know, there was one medical author he used to write. I used to read his novels. Robin Cook or something, Tom Cook or something like that. Sidney Sheldon and all those things. All those authors, they make millions of dollars. They write so many books and they are being sold everywhere. All those novels put together. We may read. At the time of that, is it going to help us? Nothing. Completely useless. All the news that we have watched. No, Baba. I have to keep updated. What is BJP doing? What is Congress doing? Is Modi going to come again? Is Modi ji going to get elected again? What is Trump doing? Is he going to come in 2024? What is going to happen to Biden? I have to keep updated. What did the senator do? What did that happen? This, that. We are filling our tiny little minds with all this garbage information. Garbage information. Then where is the time for Srila Prabhupada's books? Where is the time for Srila Prabhupada's books? Where is the time to store Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Bhagavad Gita, nectar of devotion, nectar of instruction? Where is the time? Brihad Bhagavatamrit. No time. So who did Srila Sanatana Goswami write Brihad Bhagavatamrit for? Who did Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami write Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit for? Who? Only the brahmacharis and sannyasis. Not for us. We have to think. How many hours we are wasting reading newspapers and all these, browsing the internet and watching these videos. We have to think. It's all going to affect our consciousness. And we have limited capacity to read and retain. Mind capacity is limited. So why fill it with garbage? Krishna consciousness means to empty the mind completely of all the anarthas and fill it with Krishna consciousness. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada wrote so many books. So many books. Otherwise, Srila Prabhupada could have written one small little booklet and that would have been sufficient. No, but we have to glorify. We have to use literature. We have to use language to glorify Krishna. See, here it is clearly mentioned. That is what will please our acharyas. So any literature, no matter how nicely it has been written, how nice the language is, it is completely useless if it does not glorify Krishna. If it does not remind us of Krishna, it is simply useless. And spiritually advanced people do not take any pleasure in such literatures. Srila Prabhupada gives examples. Social literary men, authors, all these novelists, scientific literature. People sometimes, even though it may not be related to their occupation, just to appear smart in conversations, they like to read about this. Little bit they will read about nanotechnology, little bit they will read about 3D printers, and then in a party, they will try to appear very updated. They will tell, oh, this, do you know about the latest Tesla? Do you know how we are going in a space shuttle? It's going to become tourism, this, that. All right, all that is there. But it is all within the realm of Jada Jnana, mundane knowledge. It is not Divya Jnana. There are two types of Jnana, two types of knowledge. mundane knowledge and transcendental knowledge. We have a choice. Either we can be experts in mundane knowledge, or we can humbly devote ourselves to divine transcendental knowledge. So scientists, mundane poets, theoretical philosophers, politicians. Srila Prabhupada says, all this is absorbed in material advancement of sense pleasures. And they are all, Srila Prabhupada writes, dolls of material energy. They are all dolls of material energy. I am quoting Srila Prabhupada. They take pleasure in a place where rejected subject matters are thrown. That is garbage. People who take pleasure in reading all these types of literatures, news, sports, etc., they are simply taking pleasure in rejected subject matters. And then Srila Sridhar Swami says something very important, and you can read it for yourself. It is the last sentence of the second last paragraph of the purport to text number 10. What does Srila Sridhar Swami say about all these material pleasures? On the other hand, Srila Prabhupada writes in the last paragraph, but literatures that describe the glories of Krishna are enjoyed by the Paramhamsas because they are Saragrahi. They are essence seekers. Devotees are essence seekers. And then verse number 11 is a memorization verse. It's a very important verse. In fact, Srila Prabhupada writes it in the beginning, quotes it in the beginning of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Almost all the editions. Somewhere Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse. This is first canto, chapter 5, verse number 11, 1.5.11. It's the memorization.
Nectar of instruction, Prabhupada, he quotes.
Huh?
Nectar of instruction, he quotes in the introduction, in the preface.
So many places Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse. It's a very important verse. Tadvag visargo janatagha viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abhadavatyapi namananantasya yashvankitaniya shrunvanti gayanti grinanti sadhavaha. Very important verse. Srila Narad Muni says, so the literatures, the previous verse, just to recap, literatures that maybe have very flowery language, no grammatical mistakes, great scholars of English language have written them, Shakespeare and everything. But if they are not describing the glories of Krishna, they are garbage. On the other hand, now let's come to verse number 11. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the Yasho Ankitani, Anantasya, unlimited Supreme Lord. How is Krishna? Krishna is Ananta. Hari Ananta, Hari Katha Ananta. Unlimited Supreme Lord. Those literatures that glorify Krishna Nam, Krishna Yash, Krishna Roop, form, and Krishna Leela, pastimes. Literatures, transcendental literatures that glorify Krishna's name, fame, form, and pastimes, etc., is a different creation. It's in a different category. Full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about Viplava, a revolution, bring about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, such transcendental literatures that glorify Krishna, even though there may be grammatical mistakes, even though the language may not be very flowery, decorated with different figures of speech and this and that, the language as such grammatically may not be very high class, but these literatures are glorifying Krishna. They are heard, they are sung, and they are accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Sadhava. Grinanti sadhava. The sadhus will accept such literatures. Which literatures? Which are describing the glories of Krishna Nam, Krishna Roop, Krishna Leela, and so on. Such literatures will be accepted, even though there may be certain grammatical mistakes. How many grammatical mistakes are allowed? Yasmin prati shlokam abhaddavat api. Even if every verse, every line abhaddavat, if there are grammatical mistakes, still grinanti sadhava. Not just accept. Sadhus not just accept such literature, but they shrunvanti, they hear it, they read it, and gayanti. They preach that literature. They speak about that literature. Tadvag visargo janatagha viplavo yasmin prati shlokam abhadavatapi namanyanantasya yashonkitanyat shrunvanti gayanti grinanti sadhava. Janatagha viplavo. It creates a viplav, a revolution in the Janata. These literatures. What did Srila Prabhupada's books do? They have created a revolution. So my dear friends, who can unmute and explain this verse in your own language? Raise your hand, please. Who can explain this verse? Verse number 11. In your own word. Just repeat it. Are nobody is raising? Okay. So someone who has not answered recently. Satyarup Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
As far as I have understood is that, as Prabhupada says in the 10th verse, he says in the purport of the 10th verse, he compares the materialistic people to the crows and he compares the transcendentalists to the swans. So here in the 11th sloka, as Narada Muni says, that even there are a lot of mistakes in any slokas, even if it is every sloka and every stanza, if there is abhaddhavatyapi, there are so many and so many mistakes also, it is considered pure because the sadhava, they listen to it, they grananti, they gayanti, they sing the glories, they hear this and it is accepted by the purified souls.
Hare Krishna. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you. Now, one more question to all of you. Let's see who can answer this. In Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat, there is a incident where Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by his own personal example, teaches that even if a pure devotee has composed a book and there are mistakes, still that book should be accepted and one should not find faults. Yes, Archana Bhakti Mataji, please unmute.
Prabhuji, Ishwar Puri had written something and asked him to correct it. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, how can I correct anything which is written by a devotee of your caliber? It cannot be, how can I find any fault with that?
But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is sentimental. Hey, he is sentimental about his Guru. I don't buy this philosophy. It should be corrected, Mataji. If there is a mistake, it should be corrected. So to disprove this nonsensical thought, what did Mahaprabhu do?
He actually corrected it, but his correction turned out to be false.
Haribol! Yes. Yes. Why did Mahaprabhu do that? Because someone may raise objection that no, it should be corrected. Mahaprabhu, Nimai Pandit, Digvijay Pandits are trembling in front of him. Keshav Kashmiri ran away. That Nimai Pandit is trying to find a correction and Mahaprabhu's correction is wrong. And Ishwar Puri Maharaj defeats Mahaprabhu and Mahaprabhu is very happy to accept that. Yes. So one should not find faults in the compositions of great souls. Why? Because Murkho vadati Vishnaye, Dhira vadati Vishnave, Ubhayo hi tu samam punyam bhavagrahi janardana. Again from Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. Mahaprabhu speaks this verse. Who can explain this verse? Please raise your hand. Yes, Sandeep Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yeah. So Murkho Vadati Vishnaye and Dhiro Vadati Vishnave. So in Sanskrit, Vishnu for third Tritiya Vibhakti, it's Vishnave, not Vishnaye. So Mahaprabhu is saying Murkho Vadati Vishnaye and Dhiro, intelligent person says Vishnave. So both got the equal benefits because Bhavagrahi Janada, because Krishna knows that both are remembering me.
Aha, very nice. What do we say when we are putting tilak on the right side of our belly? Every day, right side of the belly. Left side is Om Vamanaya Namah.
Om Vaishnave Namah.
Right side is?
Vaishnave.
See, you are all dhira. You are all intelligent. You are saying Om Vishnave Namah. But even if somebody is saying instead of Om Vishnave Namah, Om Vishnaye Namah. Ubhayo hitu samam punya. Ubhayo, both get the same punya. Because Krishna is Bhavagrahi Janardana. Krishna, if we want to find faults, we can find fault with everything. Offer fresh flowing water from a river, you can find fault. Right? There are so many fish in that river passing stool and urine in that river water. I will not accept. You offer a flower, so many honeybees have touched that flower. I will not accept. You offer a fruit, so many flies, so many birds have touched that flower. I will not accept. Everything we can find fault. And Krishna can reject us completely. Bhavagrahi Janardana. Krishna is not like that. Bhavagrahi Janardana. So Krishna is very merciful, very loving. So thank you, dear devotees. I love to hear from all of you like that. So after this very important verse, we go to the verse number 12. So again, in the interest of time, we will just read this verse. After this, we will not read. Naishkarmyam achyuta bhavavarjitam na shobhate jnanamalam niranjanam kuta punha shashvada bhadram ishvare nacharpitam karma yadap akaranam. Sripad Narad Muni is saying, knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible Lord, Achyuta. Conception of Achyut should be there. Description of Achyut should be there. What then is the use of fruitive activities, karma kand, which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature, if they are not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord? So this is a very important instruction, that bhakti is the only important thing in life. Without Krishna bhakti, everything that we do, karma kand, jnana kand, dhyana kand, jnana kand, everything, it is useless. Na utpadayad yati rati. What is the next line? Unmute.
Shamaevahi kevalam.
Yes. Kama evahi kevalam. If it is not arousing love for Krishna, na utpadayad yadi ratim, shrama evahi kevalam. It is simply useless labor. It doesn't matter what it is. You can give any name. Atho mahabhaga bhavana mogadrek shuchi shrava satyarato dhritavrataha urukramasya khila bandha muktaye samadhinanu smaratad vicheshtitam. Sripad Narad Muni is speaking with love to his disciple. Oh, Vyasadev, your vision is completely perfect. Your vision is completely perfect. Drik means vision, drishti. Amoghadrik. Amoghadrik. Your vision is perfect. And Shuchi Shravaha. Your fame is spotless. You have pure fame. You are very famous. You are firm in your vow, Dhrida Vrata. And you are situated in truthfulness. Satya Rataha. You are Satya Rat. We are Kamarat. We are running after Kam, sense gratification. But Sripad Vyasdev is Satya Rat. He is dedicated to truthfulness, taken a vow of truthfulness. And thus you can, yes, you can think of the pastimes of Lord in trance. For what? For the liberation of people in general from all material bondage. You can do it. My dear friends, I think this verse number 13 is very sweet. Why it is very sweet? Because here, after giving a constructive feedback to his disciple, now Shripad Narad Muni is encouraging him. You are Mahabhag. You are very fortunate, Srila Vyasdev. You are Amogadrik. Your vision is perfect. Shushi Shravaha. Your fame is spotless. You are Satyarat. And you are Dhridavrat. Therefore, you can glorify Lord Urukrama, whose pastimes are extraordinary. You can glorify. Yes, you can do it for Bandha Muktaye, for the liberation, for the deliverance of all the Baddha Jivas in this material. For their sake, for Paropkar, you can do it. So this is very important, my dear friends. When we are asked by our fellow devotee friends, Prabhuji, can you please give some feedback? Can you please give some feedback? Only then we should give feedback. We should never give feedback when it has not been asked. This is a very important principle. Many times in devotee relationships, problems happen because we are very eager to show how much better we are. We like to give our feedback. We think we are senior. Because when we give a constructive feedback, it makes us feel very superior. We should never ever do that. Today, this Akshaya Tritiya is a very nice occasion to do that, make that sankalpa, that I will not give unsolicited advice. Srila Narad Muni is giving advice because Srila Vyasdev is asking for advice. And how is he giving advice? He is giving the diagnosis very straight, he is giving the solution very straight, and he is encouraging. Encouraging. You can do it. Sometimes when we give a negative feedback, we criticize so much. We put so much blame on other person that when you walk out, the person is completely dejected and disappointed, completely discouraged. Oh Krishna, I am good for nothing. I cannot do better. I go back to material life because in devotee circles, I am rejected. So that we should not do. We should always encourage devotees. In this regard, I am remembering Srila Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj. In his last days, he said something very profound. Srila Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj said, one of the greatest learning experiences of my life was in 1975, if I remember correctly, the first or the initial GBC meetings in Sridham Mayapur. Srila Prabhupada said that all my leading disciples can come and spend time in Sridham Mayapur and with me. So Srila Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj, who at that time was part of the BBT traveling Sankirtan party, developed under the auspices of His Holiness Hridayananda Goswami Maharaj and His Holiness Satsarup Das Goswami Maharaj. Especially in Boston, it was very active, distributing entire sets of Srila Prabhupada's books with standing orders to all the major universities in Massachusetts and other states in the Northeast. So Srila Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj also came to Sridham Mayapur. There, Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj found out that there is going to be complaints against him made to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Srila Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj came to know that some devotees are going to make a complaint against him to Srila Prabhupada and they are going to quit their services in the BBT traveling party. And the reason was Srila Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj was very austere. From the day he got his first initiation, there was not one day when Srila Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj did not chant 40 rounds. Minimum 40 rounds he would chant, which meant 5 hours of japa every day. Srila Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj would take approximately 2 hours for 16 rounds. Nicely he would chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. On YouTube there is a video also of Srila Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj chanting. So 32 rounds is 4 hours and 8 rounds another hour. So 5 hours of japa he would do before he went on book distribution. And 2 hours of reading Srila Prabhupada's books every morning before he went on book distribution. That means 7 hours of bhajan, 5 hours of Nam bhajan and 2 hours of reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Only then he would go and distribute books. Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj would distribute books for around 10 hours. And only then he would come back to the bus and take the one and only meal of the day. That also nothing cooked. Only yogurt and dry fruits with some dates. So some dry fruits like almonds and cashew nuts, raisins, dates and yogurt. That's all. I repeat, 1 meal in a day, yogurt, dry fruits and dates. And then he would do Nam Sankirtan at night. So 1 meal in a day, sleeping for only 2 hours from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock he would wake up and he would feel sleepy. So he would stand and read Prabhupada's books from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. with a flashlight in the bus, standing up so that other devotees will not get disturbed. With a flashlight he would read. 2 hours standing. If he sat down, he would feel sleepy. After reading Srila Prabhupada's books for 2 hours, you can imagine what happens to the consciousness. Then he would take his japamala and chant for 5 hours. Then there would be morning program in the bus because they had their own deities. And then they would go to the universities would open at 9 o'clock and then they would enter the university. And he was fully charged up with 2 hours of anybody asked Srila Bhaktitirtha Maharaj, what is in this book? He knew because he had read it attentively. This was his purity, but it was too much for his followers. They were thinking this is too much. Srila Bhaktitirtha Maharaj is too austere. So they were going to tell Srila Prabhupada, he's fanatic, he's too austere, we quit. We will take up some other service. We cannot serve under Srila Bhaktitirtha Maharaj. We cannot manage with 1 meal in a day. We feel guilty eating 3 meals in a day. Because our leader is eating only 1 meal in a day. That also he doesn't do anything cooked. Just yogurt and dates. We don't know how he survives and where he gets the energy from. And we cannot chant 40 rounds. We don't have the taste. 16 rounds get over, we put our bead back. Now we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. No taste. But he has got so much taste. We feel guilty working under him. So we want some other service. It's too much for us. This complaint went to the GBC, who were going to present it to Srila Prabhupada. But the GBC told Srila Bhaktitirtha Maharaj first. Srila Bhaktitirtha Maharaj initially was very heartbroken. But then in Sridham Mayapur, Srila Bhaktitirtha Maharaj made a sankalp, made a vow. And what he said, what realization he got and what vow he took, he told it to his dear friend, Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj. And Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj after that has repeated this instruction so many times. I have heard it myself. That day in Sridham Mayapur, during Gaur Purnima celebrations, I think it was 1975, Srila Bhaktitirtha Swami Maharaj had this realization. In Krishna consciousness, one must be strict with oneself, but very liberal with others. I repeat, one must be conservative and strict with oneself, but very liberal and forgiving with others. What happens? We are following certain principle. We wake up in the morning, we do puja every morning, and we see someone else is not doing puja in the morning. Hey, who gave you deities? You don't know? You are supposed to serve your deities every day. Because I am doing, I think I have got the adhikar to tell them. This is what happens. But there is a way to give a feedback. Only when we are asked, only when we have a relationship, and only when we can give it properly, we should do it. Otherwise, the devotees become discouraged. And we should never discourage anyone in their service. Always encourage them. If we discourage any devotee, we are doing the greatest disservice. Greatest disservice. Srila Bhaktitirtha Swami Maharaj said, I will be strict with myself, but I will be very liberal with others. And he went to those devotees and encouraged them. He said, you are all wonderful devotees. I am a madman. Don't look at me. I am a madman. You are all very wonderful devotees. And I cannot do without you. So please don't leave me. And all the devotees, they embraced Srila Bhaktitirtha Maharaj. No, Maharaj, you will not leave you, will not leave you. And the whole matter was settled. But till his last day, Srila Bhaktitirtha Swami Maharaj remembered that. And in his last days, he is telling Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj this. And I learned a lesson that day. One should be strict with oneself, but very liberal and forgiving with others. So Sripad Narad Muni, he's giving a feedback, but now he's encouraging Srila Vyasdev with all these words. You can do it, like that. So this is very important. verse number 13. Then it is exactly 9:30. So what we will do, dear devotees, we will not go over time, we'll stop. This was a very important Siddhanta we discussed in verse number 13, how Srila Vyasadeva is encouraging, how Srila Narad Muni is encouraging Srila Vyasadeva. And with this, we will conclude today's session, but we will have a session tomorrow also. We will try to do Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, if it is okay with all of you. If it is okay with all of you. So that we can keep the sessions short, not go too much over time. Okay. And now, if it's okay, we can take some questions. So Swati Mataji, please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sorry, I forgot to change my name. Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful session, Prabhuji. My question is about verse 9. In that it's mentioned that Srila Vyasadeva, he knew the importance of Harikatha and Bhakti, and still purposely he overemphasized, the four, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So I understand that it's because, different grades of people are at different levels and but why did he do that? If he really knew the importance of Bhakti, couldn't he have directed everyone to Lord Vishnu, just following or giving different solutions?
Hare Krishna. Shama Kishori Mataji, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji. So, yes, it is a fact that Srila Vyasadeva knew. Srila Vyasadeva also is an incarnation of Bhagwan, and he is perfect. He is Trikalagya, and he does not have the deficiencies of a conditioned soul. But this is Leela. If Srila Vyasadeva were to do everything perfectly, then where is the need for Guru? Where is the need for Srila Narad Muni to come and instruct him? So Krishna has manifested this Leela, that Srila Vyasadeva apparently made a mistake. There was a shortcoming. And then he had to take help from his Gurudev. He had to get proper directions and then rectify his mistake by writing Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So this is a Leela for us to understand. Srila Vyasadeva as such is perfect. He knew, but this is a Leela so that we understand that even a great devotee, a very advanced spiritualist like Srila Vyasadeva also needs guidance from Shri Guru. Is that okay, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Just a quick follow-up question, because one of my friends, he has told me that in Shiva Puran, Shiva is given as the Supreme Personality. So why should I not accept Shiva Puran and why should I accept Vishnu Puran? It's written by Vyasadeva. So it becomes difficult to, convince such people who give references to these other Puranas.
So we should let them worship Lord Shiva, because if they worship Lord Shiva nicely, Lord Shiva we cannot convince them, Lord Shiva will convince them, 100%. There's a story, so many devotees are there. Look at Dilip Prabhu sitting there, nodding his head. He is a proof. He is a Shiva Bhakta.
Arrival.
So there are so many devotees. And in our Shastras also, there are examples. One, there was a devotee and he worshipped Lord Shiva very nicely. And then Lord Shiva appeared to him and he asked Lord Shiva that, Lord Shiva asked him, what do you want? And he said, give me the thing that is most dear to you. Lord Shiva said, you have the well in your courtyard. Tomorrow morning, you go and you will find the thing that is most dear to me. And he dove into that well the next morning and he found the deity of Shri Radha Madan Mohan. Shri Radha Madan Mohan. Another devotee of Lord Shiva, he prayed to Lord Shiva that he wants a Chintamani jewel so he can produce so much gold. So what did Lord Shiva tell him? You tell, Mataji. What did Lord Shiva tell him? Go to who?
Sanatan Goswami.
Go to Sanatan Goswami. And if you meet Sanatan Goswami, Haribol ho jayega. Then there is no coming back. Srila Sanatan Goswami, he became a disciple of Srila Sanatan Goswami. He got pure devotional service. So Lord Shiva guides. Let them worship Lord Shiva, no problem. Let them worship Lord Shiva because we cannot convince them. Let them worship Lord Shiva 100%. If they worship genuinely Lord Shiva will, he is Vaishnava Acharya. He is Sampradaya Acharya. He has got a whole Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya. He will definitely guide those souls to the lotus feet of Radha Madan Mohan. No doubt about it. Okay?
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Ajay Govind Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you are talking about one verse which is, you said that is important and we should be remembering, and deciding it. Which one was that you taught? Sorry, I skipped.
11th verse. Tadvag visargo janata ka viplava.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. And Prabhuji, one point you were talking about, the feedback, or if somebody asks the feedback. Sometimes it happens that devotees may ask it, but then they are, even after asking, they're not able to accept it. So how do we know beforehand, whether the devotee would be able to accept the feedback, or is it just for the namesake, or really somebody wants the feedback? Because if somebody is genuinely seeking the feedback, after taking the feedback, they will work on it. And if they are just seeking it just for the sake of, formality, or, sometime it happens, then it backfires on you. So that is a really tough situation. How do we deal with that, or understand that before, we are making an attempt to even give the feedback after the requests?
Yes. So in Vaishnava relationships, we should be genuine. And if someone is asking for feedback, it is nice if they are genuinely wanting feedback. So what I have done in my, what I generally do is, when someone initially asks for feedback, if I don't have a relationship with that devotee, I don't respond. I don't give a feedback. Or I may just say that you are a nice devotee. Please, may Srila Prabhupada and Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, may Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga bless you. And I pray. But if the devotee really wants feedback, they will ask again. Or if I have a relationship with that devotee and the devotee asks even once, then I try to give feedback. We can try to give feedback. And if we feel that there is resistance or there is justification, like we start giving feedback and they just justifying, oh, no, but that person did, then we should back off. He's not ready. He's not ready. Arjun was ready to get feedback from Krishna. Arjun gave a full philosophical explanation to Krishna, and Krishna was silent. Entire first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is not speaking anything. Nothing. Only when Arjun says Karpanya dosho pahata swabhava, then Krishna said. When he says Shishyasteham sadimam tvam prapanna, then Krishna starts speaking. So Krishna is giving us this lesson that don't give unsolicited advice, only when it is asked you. So we can test the water before we jump in. So give little feedback, see how they this, and then just like that.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Divya Mataji, and then Vinit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, when you spoke about talking to deities every day about the problems and struggles, now I do that every day, talking with my deities about all the struggles and problems I have in life. And I pray every day, that Krishna, please take away these problems. But, my problems don't go away. They're still there. And it's hard to keep faith in that situation. So I'm just wondering, how should we, deal with that? Deal with our faith, keeping up with the faith,
Can I speak the truth, Mataji?
Yeah.
The truth is that Krishna really loves you, and Krishna is really being very merciful to you. This is the truth. When this may be hard to swallow, but this is the Siddhanta. This is the truth. When we get what we want, initially we may be happy, but ultimately we forget Krishna. We tend to forget Krishna. I'm not saying we forget Krishna, but we tend to forget Krishna. What is it that brings us to the point of Sharanagati? What is it that brings us to the point of Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja? What is it that brings us to that point? It is crisis, calamity, adversity, and problems in life. When things are going well, when our prayers are answered, there is a tendency to become complacent and forget Krishna and again get absorbed in material attachments. When Krishna is really merciful to someone, he gives what will keep their fire of devotion burning strong. And he will not give anything that may diminish the fire of devotion, or that something that may douse the fire of devotion. Today is Akshaya Tritiya. We're talking about the Akshaya Patra. Durvasaso vakyamupetya Krishna sacha bravita kananavasinisham anta pravishtham manasa juhava Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Srila Bilva Mangalacharya has written in Govinda Damodar Stotra, Durvasaso Vakyam Upetta Krishna. When Krishna, Draupadi Devi, is called Krishna, because she was always chanting Krishna, 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 Krishna. So she was called Krishna. Durvasaso Vakyam Upetta Krishna. Durvasaso Vakyam. The instruction of Durvas Muni that I will go take a bath and then I will come to eat. That was the order of Durvas Muni. Durvasaso Vakyam Upetya Krishna. Upetya, when she received that order from Durvas Muni, Sacha Bravit Kananavasin Isha. She's Kananavasi. What facilities did Draupadi Devi have? She's living in a forest. She's living in a forest. But if Draupadi Devi did not feed Shri Durvas Muni and his thousands of disciples, some say there were 60,000 disciples, Durvas Muni was known to be short-tempered and he would curse. Our Acharyas explain, Divya Mataji, please listen carefully. Our Acharyas explain, for Draupadi Devi, for Srimati Draupadi Devi, this was a bigger calamity than the calamity that had taken place in Kuru Sabha. Srimati Draupadi Devi says, at that time, my life was at stake when Dushasan grabbed me. But now, the lives of my 5 husbands are at stake. Hare Krishna. This was the selfless attitude of Srimati Draupadi Devi. She said, this is a bigger calamity. Anta pravishta manasa juhava Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Hey Krishna, in the Kuru Sabha, you came in the form of a sari. Now this will not work. Now Sakshad you will have to come to save my husbands. Anta pravishta manasa juhava Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. What impelled Srimati Draupadi Devi to call out to Krishna with that fervor, with that devotion, with that urgency? It was calamity. Her 5 husbands would have been cursed to die. Calamity. What impelled the Vraja Gopis to sing the Gopi Geet? What impelled? It was a calamity. Krishna had disappeared. Will Krishna never come back to us? It was calamity. What impelled Gajendra to chant those beautiful prayers? It was calamity. What prompted Uddhav to ask those questions to Krishna, in response to which Krishna spoke the Uddhav Gita? It was a calamity. Krishna was about to depart from this world. What impelled Arjun to ask questions and surrender to Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra? It was calamity. It was calamity. If you see any section of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Sharanagati comes because of calamity. Whether it is Dhruva, whether it is Prahlad Maharaj, calamity brings us to the point of Sharanagati. Those who have a very comfortable life, they will live a very comfortable life and die. Punarapi janamam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani, jathare shayanam. And it continues. Life cycle after life cycle, birth after birth after birth in this material world. But when a time comes for a jiva to exit this material world, I repeat, when the time comes for a jiva to exit this material world, at that time, that jiva gets 2 things. One is sadhu sangha and second is calamity. Yasyaham anugranami harishye tadhanam shanay tadhanam tyajantyasya swajana dukha dukhada. One calamity after another. One dukkha after another. Dukkha. One dukkha after another. And that devotee suffers in this lifetime. But after this lifetime, because that devotee has surrendered to Krishna, surrendered because of sadhu sangha and because of calamity, that devotee will get Krishna. On the other hand, a devotee who has got one comfort after another, one prayer answered after another prayer answered, such a devotee will become complacent and will have to take many more births. Therefore, on the path of Krishna consciousness, calamities, crises, and problems are our friends. There is no devotee. Tell me one example of a Mahabhagavat who became a Mahabhagavat without calamity. Were there not calamities in the life of Srila Prabhupada? So many calamities. The whole Prabhupada Lilamrit is a book of calamity, failure after failure after failure after failure. Did Prabhupada not pray that let someone give me a ticket so I can go to Japan and make my presentation? I have written a whole book, The Light of Bhagavat, to present there. Srila Prabhupada did not have $300. What is $300? We go for one vacation and we spend $1,000. Srila Prabhupada did not have $300 to go to Japan. And he had to cancel the trip even though he had an invitation. He had written a whole book, Light of Bhagavat, to present there. One disappointment after another disappointment. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur being attacked with bricks and sticks. They wanted to kill him. How many times has it happened that we go to Shri Vrindavan Dham and the door of Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Govinda, Radha Gopinath, Radha Shamsundar, all these temples are slammed shut in our face? It has not happened to any of us. It happened to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada. Only Radharaman Mandir remained open for him and his followers. One calamity after the another. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur being attacked by black magic. Bisaki Sen. So many Apasampradayas, people attacking him. There were British officers. It is there in the book 7th Goswami. You can read. There was a British officer who was at a higher post than Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He had plans to murder Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Murder him. Why? Because he was envious at how efficient Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur was as a magistrate. It's there in the book. One calamity after the other. There is no Acharya, Sanatan Goswami, being imprisoned, getting a skin disease, his whole body filled with pus and blood. How many of us have experienced that? Without calamity, a conditioned soul will never surrender to Krishna. Therefore, the eternally liberated souls that we are talking about, they go through calamity to teach us that have faith. Don't be discouraged. Everyone has to go through calamity in this life. Everyone has to go through. Because calamity will bring us to the point of Sharanagati. And if we are Sharanagat, then we will get Krishna. Sharanagati gives rise to Prem. And when we have Prem, we get Krishna. Without Prem, we cannot get Krishna. And we cannot get Krishna Prem without Sharanagati. And a conditioned soul will never surrender, will never come to the point of Sharanagati unless there is suffering and calamity. Therefore, Lord Brahmaji, who is our Mahajan, Sampradaya Acharya, he has prayed. Tatte nukampam susamikshamano bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam ridvakva purbhir vidadhan namaste jive tayo mukti pade sadaya bhak. Tatte nukampam susamikshamano bhunjana. Bhunjana means to tolerate. Bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam. Vipakam means all the problems that are there in our life. Atma krit. Considering them to be the reaction to our own previous sins. Just accept them and tolerate them. Bhunja, just tolerate them. All the while waiting for the mercy of Krishna. Tatte nukampam. Waiting for the anukampa of Krishna. Susamikshamano. Eagerly waiting. And while waiting, offering Sharanagati. Hridavak vapurbhir vidadhan namaste. Becoming Sharanagat. Completely surrendered to Krishna. with body, mind, and heart, and words, and everything. Complete surrender. Such a person will get Krishna. Mukti pade daya bhav. Krishna becomes his rightful claim, Srila Brahmaji is saying. To one who tolerates all the vipak, all the sufferings, considering them to be one's own sinful reactions, and eagerly waiting for Krishna's mercy, not losing hope, not losing faith. Krishna is not our order supplier. We can pray, but Krishna, he loves us so much, he will answer our prayer. Krishna, there's nothing, no shortage for Krishna. Krishna can answer all our prayers in a fraction of a second. It's not difficult for Krishna. The reason Krishna is not giving it is because that is not anukul for us and for our loved ones. If Krishna has a plan that this lifetime, I want to take you back home, back to Godhead. And if our plans are going to create a disturbance in that, in Krishna's plan, Krishna will not listen to our prayers. We can pray all we want, but that is Krishna's mercy. A child may ask for something, but if the parents know that this is not going to be good for this child in the long run, the parents will say no, no matter how tempting it is, how attractive it is. This faith we must have. Is that okay, Divya Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Vinit Prabhu, I will give very short answers now because it's very late.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanavad Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada. When you were sharing the realization of His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Swami Maharaj, when we are to be lenient with others, is to, in one sense, give appreciation and in some sense be forgiving of their shortcomings, which I read as give our association to them. But if one is advancing spiritually, sometimes I feel that
give not our association, give them the association of Srila Prabhupada and the pure devotees, not our association. We are nobody to give our association to anybody. Yeah, please continue.
In that context, we are trying to appreciate someone, even though they may not be able to follow some standard. In some sense, we have to still appreciate them for what they are doing in Krishna's service. But if one's heart is becoming softer with the practice of bhakti, then by appreciating them, we are also indirectly accepting some of their impurities. And that's entering our heart because we are trying to appreciate them as a person. So how do we prevent the softened heart from getting affected by the impurities while still appreciating the other devotee and not judging them?
By always keeping our eyes on the acharyas. That is the standard. What Srila Prabhupada did, what Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur did, what Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur did, what Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj did, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. That is the standard. By keeping our eyes, keeping our focus on what the true example is, the true standard is, we will not get contaminated. Encouraging the innocent does not mean that we accept their substandard practices. No. And we don't appreciate their substandard practices. If someone has given up meat but is eating onion garlic, we don't say, very good, you are eating onion garlic. No, we say, very good, you gave up meat. We appreciate what is worthy of being appreciated. Srila Prabhupada appreciated the hippies. Somebody who is having sex on the sidewalk, on the road. Someone who is shooting cocaine and LSD. Someone who is eating meat. Srila Prabhupada is appreciating. But what is Srila Prabhupada appreciating? That is very beautiful. Srila Prabhupada is appreciating that you are looking for something higher. You are inquisitive. You are frustrated with this material life. Your American society, after recession in America, there was immense prosperity. Immense prosperity. 1950s, 1940s were the Great Depression. But after the World War II ended, there was a boom in America, economic boom. everybody achieved the American dream. Almost everyone achieved the American dream of having 2 jobs, 2 cars, at least a 3-4 bedroom house, 2-story house, and 1 dog and 2 children. This was the American dream. And one of the 2 cars should be a van, minivan. This is, I'm not joking, you can look it up. This is the American dream. And almost everybody achieved it in the post-World War II era. But what happened as a result of that? There was so much affluence, so much prosperity that the kids got spoiled. And the entire generation of baby boomers, they rebelled. They became hippies. And they were questioning the authority. So Srila Prabhupada said, what is good about the hippies is they are frustrated with material enjoyment. Car, kitna car, they are frustrated with cars. Money, kitna money, they are frustrated with this money, pocket money business. Nice house, having your own bedroom, they are frustrated, they don't want it. My Guru Maharaj, Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj says, his father had to quit school in 8th grade. Which grade? 8th grade. 8th grade, he had to quit school. Why? Because there was no money in the house. He had to do odd jobs and raise money so that they could buy bread. This was the Great Depression in the 1930s and 1940s. But when there was a lot of economic development, there was money everywhere. Kids were getting pocket money. They were going on vacations to other countries and enjoying. But after enjoying everything, they were frustrated. They said, enough of this enjoyment. We don't want it. So they rebelled. They were looking for something higher. And Srila Prabhupada appreciated that. Srila Prabhupada said, these hippies are joining my movement because they are frustrated with material enjoyment. They want something more and they are trying it through drugs, but they are not finding it. And here I have come with the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadhanam. And then there was a Hare Krishna explosion. So Srila Prabhupada appreciated, but appreciated what was worthy of appreciation. We should not appreciate and accept things that should not be appreciated. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, that chapter which deals with Ramchandra Puri coming to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, and 11th canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, they clearly explain we should neither criticize nor appreciate. We should neither praise nor criticize. That is a general rule. But if one of these 2 rules has to be broken, we should break the rule of don't praise by praising. This is there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sarup Damodar Goswami says there are 2 rules: don't praise and don't criticize. But of the 2, if you want to break one rule, you can break the rule of don't praise by praising others. But don't break the rule, don't criticize. So we should appreciate others, but not their qualities that are not worthy of being appreciated. There is good in everyone, and that should be appreciated. But our focus should be on the acharyas. Then we will not become diluted. Is that okay, Vinit Prabhu?
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare
Krishna, Dilip Prabhu, Swati Mataji, Dilip Prabhu. And then last question will be Sharanagat Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Pranam all Shishila Prabhupada. You mentioned that means taking a suggestion or suggestion, right? When we are advised, we are asking that you told about perspective of who is giving. But with respect to the who's taking perspective, with respect to the me, obviously, if I don't take advice, then I will not progress. But when we got advice, maybe out of 5, I may able to do it only 1. Not because of I don't have a faith, not because of I don't want to do it, but because of my conditioning, how millions of years come out of. I had to stop asking, because there is one more theory is if you cannot follow, don't ask it. Or another one is it is obviously the sincerity lacking, that is also there. Is in a bhakti, anything if you do seriously or sincere, there's nothing can be achieved also. But the conditioning also is there. So what you advise, Prabhu? Is my understanding also is right? Or
yes, it is correct, Dilip Prabhu. So when we ask for certain suggestions for improvement to our spiritual superior, and we are given 2 or 3 instructions, we should analyze and see what is doable for us, what we can actually follow and what we may not be able to follow. And we should communicate like that to one's superior. That Prabhuji, you have given, or Mataji, you have given me these 3 instructions. I'm going to try, I appreciate all of them. I'm going to try and follow these 2 instructions. The 3rd instruction Maybe right now I may not be able to follow, but I will keep it in my mind and I will in the future. But these two I can commit myself. Like that, we should communicate so that there is transparency, but we should keep asking. We should keep asking because our intention is genuine, that we want to make spiritual advancement. So because we are not able to follow certain instructions, we should not quit asking. We should keep asking, but we should have open communication that I'm following this I'm not able to follow, but I will. Srila Prabhupada was given instruction. You are an educated young man, take the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and spread in the English language all over the world. Srila Prabhupada had to wait 40 years to fulfill that instruction, but he did it eventually, right? Sometimes it may take time to fulfill all the instructions that we are given. We should do. Srila Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, he was telling, Srila Prabhupada gave him, I think, 52 instructions or 54 instructions. And Srila Jayapataka Swami Maharaj says that I have fulfilled, I think, around 50. And 2 or 4 instructions are still left. So he's doing it. So like that. So we should keep going. Is that okay, Dilip Prabhu?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sharanagat Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. I wrote these questions in chat box also. So my question is that I had been, I mean, it is a part of my service, but then these blogs that I'm writing, I spend like 3-4 hours every day. But then because these are for very general public or sometimes for the corporate audience, they don't have that much glorification of a Krishna, but they are mostly very common based on law of karma or why we are, I mean, like material world, spiritual world, little bit of that. So there is no direct glorification of Krishna or the scriptures, but then some of the concepts are there, and then more of general examples are there, not even devotee examples. So are these considered as a material scripture? Because while you were talking today, I just felt that like maybe, I don't know.
So one should discuss this with one's Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru, under whose direction we are doing this service of writing these blogs, and they can guide Mataji.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Because I have not read your blogs, so I don't know. So whoever is instructing you, you should check with your spiritual superior. They should be able to guide.
Okay, Prabhuji. Okay, I'll do that. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Let me make sure quickly in the chat box there is nothing we missed. One Mataji has said that she was also a Shiva Bhakta and now she is a devotee of Krishna by the mercy of Lord Shiva. Please. Okay, so somebody has messaged about sadhana, how to stick to sadhana and not fall away from the sankalp that we have made. Maybe you can message me privately and we can discuss, because I'll need more details. So like that. So we will stop here. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Is it okay if we meet tomorrow? So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We'll try to keep it short.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you.